first thing to say is that we mustn't misunderstand God's silence for his absence, because he says, I'll never leave you, I'll never forsake you. Even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I'll fear no evil, for God is with me in that place. We always want God to airlift us out of our problems, but more often, in my experience, he parachutes in and joins us in the midst of them. And that is our experience. For us, the valley of the shadow of death has often looked like the MRI scanner. And when Sammy goes into those, you can't even wear your wedding ring in there. You are really alone, and she'll be in there for at least half an hour, and it's noisy. And I know some people just go in because they've got some tissue issues they need to look. But for her, sometimes it's really going to tell her what her future is. And she learned very quickly that by memorizing Psalm 91 and repeating it in her head, she could be pulled out of this tube and say, God was with me in there. No one else could be, but God was. This is the hope we have in Christ. And I'll just say one more tiny thing, and it's this. One time, because I've never been very good at Christianity, and so for a while I gave up and became an atheist. And then I made this depressing discovery that I was even worse at atheism. I was just a dreadful atheist. I kept talking to God about the fact he didn't exist. And I was hopeless at it. I'm so bad at everything. So one time when I'd been praying and crying out to God, asking him to stop a particular epileptic fit that Sammy was having, and once again it hadn't worked. And I'd even tried quoting Bible verses at God. Have you ever noticed it doesn't really impress him very much? And then she woke up in hospital once again. And I remember driving in the next morning thinking, what am I going to say to her? And I remember saying to her, I'm not proud of this, but I said to her, darling, maybe just God isn't real. I mean, if anyone tries to tell me there's any great cosmic purpose to you having another fit, I mean, it's just rubbish. Surely, why don't the things Jesus promised happen? Am I being too honest for you? You know the Bible is more honest than the church. About half of the Psalms are lament. They're not happy clappy. You know the word Israel means the struggle. You got baptized into the struggle. Not easy answers, but a bunch of questions. So, and by the way, asking these questions is an act of faith. If you're an atheist, you don't struggle with unanswered prayer. You just go, of course it doesn't work. But if you're struggling with unanswered prayer, then that's an act of faith. Anyway, I digress. So I said to Diane, maybe it's not true. And this is what she said to me. She said, Pete, getting rid of God right now won't help. Getting rid of God right now means philosophically that I'm just a highly evolved animal on a rock in space. And if Darwin is right, and it's the survival of the fittest, I'm definitely not fit, and I should be wiped out of the gene pool. There's not a lot of hope for me right now in that worldview that you're advocating. She said, no matter how hard it is to understand why God in his love allows us to go through these things, as long as we can cling on to him, we still have hope. Yes, hope for healing. Yes, hope for life after death, but also hope of experiencing his presence here in this moment. A hope rooted in the cross of Christ, a God who suffered with us and for us. No other religious outlook has this hope, the glory of a cross. And so, she didn't put it quite like that. You understand, she was in hospital just coming around from a seizure. Give her a break, you know. But I think, and there's so much else I could say, but when you're going through those hard times, find God in the problem, not just in the prospect of being released from the problem. Understand that he loves you and that he is your greatest hope. And learn to lament, learn to struggle with God, and maybe step into a faith that is less hermetically sealed and formulaically provable and is far more like any real relationship, messy and confusing, at times painful, but ultimately profoundly true.